We arrive in Montreal, and Ferrari already knows it needs to work on its power deficit to try to make up for what it's lacking compared to the Mercedes engine. Pay close attention to the third sector, which will be crucial for Ferrari to check for any improvements, if there have been any, on the engine side. But above all, as Vasseur has also confirmed, the most noticeable improvements will come with the help of the ADU, and therefore with improvements to the thermal part. But the FIA has clarified something very important about the ADU that does not work in Maranello's favor, and we'll see what that is in today's video. Let's start here because this is the biggest news of the day. The FIA has confirmed that Ferrari will not be able to redo the 2026 power unit, not even after the next ABU. The regulations allow for incremental developments with about a 4% margin, which does not permit a radical redesign of the thermal engine or the MGUK, so a complete rebuild is prohibited until 2027. This means that the structural limitations of the Ferrari SF26, namely the lack of horsepower, thermal management, and also the deployment of the MGUK, will remain as they are. Ferrari has to optimize within already established constraints, such as engine mapping, FTM, battery management, and aerodynamic integration. And the ADU is just a regulatory patch, not a way out. So it becomes clearer why Vasseur in Montreal shifts the conversation to aerodynamics in setup. It's not a choice, it's the only margin available. The message coming from the team is simple. The engine deficit means scoring points on Sunday. The team itself said it on its own channels. At Montreal, the Ferrari SF26 has to find the right balance between straight line speed, where the engine matters more, and agility in the corners, where aerodynamics can still make a difference, especially in the first and second sectors. Wing load, the thermal window of the Pirelli tires, tire compound management. The goal, of course, is to get up front and stay there with Mercedes, but no one in Maranello thinks they can close the gap in the internal combustion engine or the electric part in just 1 week. It's about bringing home whatever the cars can deliver today. Meanwhile, Andretti clarified that the upgrade package McLaren brought to Miami worked, so the CFD simulation and wind tunnel testing paid off for McLaren. On the other hand, Ferrari is mainly struggling with the engine because the aerodynamic part worked in Miami and will also be confirmed in Montreal. But it's a game that's all about the engine, because every team is developing the aerodynamic side, but they're all improving race by race. The April break also allowed McLaren to improve even more, to show up ready in Miami, and they were right up there battling with Mercedes. So Mercedes and McLaren remain the benchmark since they share the same power unit, while the others are following behind. Red Bull is still struggling with the drivability of their car, which did improve in Miami, but the engine remains a strong point for Red Bull. Strangely enough, since it's their first Red Bull Ford engine, yet it still remains very competitive. On the other hand, Ferrari has an underperforming engine. Right now, among the top teams, their engine is at the bottom of the ranking, but the aerodynamic side is very impressive. In fact, the FTM has even been copied by other teams, as we've seen. And this ties in well with what Mohammed Ben Sulayem said, because the FIA president dismissed the criticism of the 2026 power units with a clear statement. Only teams that are struggling complain about the rules. He distinguishes between constructive criticism from competitive teams and complaints from teams in trouble. But, and this is the key point, he also confirms that he's pushing to move up the engine replacement. The FIA is negotiating with the manufacturers to bring forward the engine change, which was originally set for around 2030, but now they want to move it up to 2027 to 2028, a much tighter window. On one hand, this position defends the current regulations, but on the other, it admits they could be replaced sooner than expected. If there really wasn't a structural imbalance, there wouldn't be any talk about moving anything up. Ben Sulayem says the ADU is working, but the very fact that they're talking about an early engine change says otherwise. And now let's move on to another topic of the day, which concerns Max Verstappen and the Nürburgring. In fact, Danny Juncadella, who was driving the number 80 Mercedes when Max had to retire due to a drive shaft failure at the 24 hours, played down the situation. He said there was no technical knockout, no structural defect. These things happen in endurance racing. Juncadella explained that the failure wasn't due to a design flaw in the Mercedes that Verstappen drove at the 24 hours of Nürburgring, but rather to wear and fatigue over 24 hours of continuous racing. The difference is between a technical failure and a failure caused by stress design limits. In endurance racing, the second category is normal. Having a failure like that can happen. It's a statement that tones down the drama surrounding Verstappen, but it indirectly confirms what is also said in Formula 1. Transmission components in the 2026 power units operate close to their thermal and mechanical stress limits. Even a world champion in a different car can end up out of the race because of a failure that can happen in endurance racing. And another fundamental aspect to consider is whether communication within Ferrari is working or not, because Vasseur is giving some false expectations about how Ferrari should perform on the track. In fact, he says there's untapped potential in the Ferrari SF26, but the track has shown something else, that Mercedes and McLaren are currently ahead of Ferrari, and Red Bull is also catching up to Ferrari. In fact, with Verstappen, they were ahead in Miami. So be careful, because expectations eventually have to match reality. If expectations don't reflect reality, we'll end up like last year, always chasing potential that never materialized. And we don't want to see that this year, because we've seen that Ferrari is there from an aerodynamic standpoint. In fact, they've even set an example for their rivals. But we shouldn't give fans false hope when it comes to the engine. If the engine isn't there, just say it, and we need to be realistic about what's happening on the track. Meanwhile, at Red Bull, they've clarified why the reverse wing arrived late. The technical explanation points to the complexity of integrating it with the DRS system and the FIA's validation for regulatory compliance. It wasn't a conceptual problem, but rather a homologation process that took longer than expected. Now Red Bull is working on the next steps for the RB22, focusing on optimizing rear wing downforce, reducing drag on the straights, and improving stability in fast corners. The upcoming updates will involve the floor and also the side of the floor edge, the suspension, and even the engine mapping, which as we know is the Red Bull Ford engine, with the goal of extracting more horsepower during deployment with the MG UK, so also maximizing the electric component, which is entirely managed by Ford. And the consensus among insiders is that Red Bull isn't in crisis, but it's not unstoppable either. Right now, they're kind of in a middle ground between Mercedes and McLaren, who seem to be out front, then there's Red Bull, and then Ferrari. The reverse was a plan B that got moved up in the schedule, and as we saw in Miami, it worked. Meanwhile, Lando Norris made waves with a statement that's more significant than it might seem. He said that Formula 1 in 2026 has lost its identity. A comment like that from a top driver isn't just paddock talk. Norris is referring to the fact that the championship has become a compromise formula. Power units that are very different from each other, with Mercedes out front, Ferrari and Honda struggling, extremely strict aerodynamic regulations, and the influence of driving skill, so the driver's talent, has been reduced. This has led to a fixed technical hierarchy: Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, one that's hard to shake up during the season. The loss of identity Norris talks about is the shift from a sport of engineering and driving to what he calls a power unit lottery. When a driver of that caliber criticizes the technical direction of the championship so openly, let's remember, Norris is the current world champion, having won last year. Well, that's not just some microphone gossip, it's a very serious criticism, and coming from him, it carries even more weight. It's a signal coming straight from inside the paddock, from within the McLaren team. Usually when top drivers start talking about these issues, it's not an isolated problem. Chances are many others feel the same way he does. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz has spoken out about the Madrid circuit, the so-called Madring, saying it will be a very technical track because it will have slower sections that resemble Silverstone, but according to Sainz himself, it will also be similar to Spa-Francorchamps with some very long stretches and fast corners as well. So it'll be a compromise circuit with more technical sections, faster sections, and it'll also require an ideal setup for that track that won't be completely low downforce nor fully high downforce, but rather something in between. It will be an important testing ground in September to see how Ferrari performs, and we'll also see if they can manage the engine's power well together with the aerodynamics. There's also a technical aspect that deserves attention because it goes against the grain compared to all the talk we've been hearing these past weeks. We're talking about a technological change to the 2026 power units that's working well, but has flown under the radar. While everyone is focused on the drama surrounding the HPU, Ferrari's engine deficit, and the complaints from some teams, there's a specific element of the regulations related to thermal management, MGUK deployment, and aerodynamic integration that has been successfully implemented and is stabilizing performance. It's a story that reveals a truth that's less convenient for the anti-2026 narrative. Not everything that's controversial has failed. Some elements of the new regulations are quietly doing their job, while all the noise is focused elsewhere. It's worth keeping that in mind when evaluating the overall picture of the championship. And finally, there's Zak Brown's move, who has raised the tone regarding the smaller teams. In fact, McLaren has sent an official letter to the FIA to report the model of alliances between main teams and satellite teams, with an implicit reference to Red Bull and Racing Bulls, as well as the connection with Mercedes and their own structure. It's a political issue, not just a technical one, and it touches on one of the most delicate balances in the paddock. Zak Brown has taken the discussion beyond the paddock statements and brought it to the formal table of the FIA. We'll see how the Federation responds, but the very fact that McLaren is choosing this path at this stage of the championship shows just how much the issue of alliances between teams is becoming a regulatory pressure point for the coming months. It seems that McLaren is more concerned about Red Bull and Racing Bulls than about Mercedes itself. In fact, they're raising the issue of satellite teams, specifically targeting Red Bull, even though Mercedes also forms alliances with Williams and apparently with Alpine as well. However, at this moment, the only formal alliance is between Red Bull and Racing Bulls, because as we saw in Miami, they impose team orders, and this could work against McLaren both in the constructors and driver standings. That's why they've sent this formal letter to the FIA. We'll see if the Federation decides to step in. In my opinion, the fact that there are such clear-cut alliances in Formula 1 is bad for the sport and bad for the show, because then we also end up hearing team radios that really shouldn't be happening. There are already issues between teammates, and if you add alliances between customer teams on top of that, well, it never ends. I mean, it turns Formula 1 into a place where everyone just lets each other pass, and that's not what we want. So in my opinion, Zak Brown's letter is the right move, and let's hope the FIA steps in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about all the topics we covered in this video. Do you think Ferrari will be competitive in Montreal, Canada? Don't forget to follow me, leave a like, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos about Formula 1 or Ferrari. That's all for me for now. See you in the next video.